In today's video, I'm going to be talking about self-sabotaging in relationships. Have you ever wondered why some people are always talking about wanting the perfect relationship, a partner who can treat them right, who can support them, who can be there for them, who can love them, and when they end up getting that, in some way, shape or form, they end up messing it up. Maybe you've done that yourself, or you've had a partner do that to you. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about why people self-sabotage in relationships, what the reasons are behind that, and also, most importantly, what you should be doing about it if you're seeing that type of self-sabotaging behavior within yourself, or you're the one who's on the receiving end of a partner who's self-sabotaging in the relationship. So stay tuned, because you're going to get a lot of value from this, and it's going to improve your romantic relationships drastically. For those of you that don't know, my name's Rita. This channel, Empowered Love Within, is about helping you to be successful and achieve love, success and abundance in every area of your life. Today, as I said, we're talking about relationships. So let's get onto this thing, self-sabotaging then. So when we're talking about self-sabotaging, it's a term that you've probably heard a lot being thrown around, but what does it actually mean? So what that means to me is some type of pattern of behavior or actions that are basically to your detriment. The behavior has some type of negative impact on you. The reason why I would say that self-sabotaging is so major is because most of the time when you're self-sabotaging, it's an unconscious type of behavior. It's like you're doing it involuntary, or you don't even realize that you're doing it. What you'll often see is the outcome, or the end behavior will tend to be the same. So if we're talking about it in the context of a relationship, what I'm talking about is thinking, I want this partner who's going to be there for me, who's going to love me, who's going to be faithful to me, who's going to support me, and you get that partner, or if it's the other way around, you are that type of partner to somebody else, but in some way, shape or form, you take some particular actions, or there's a pattern of behavior there that ends up damaging that relationship or hurting that person to the point where the relationship ends, or the way how the relationship plays out becomes very toxic and very negative, and it's not an enjoyable experience. So when we talk about self-sabotaging, there's a lot of people that show this type of behavior, and when you think about it, on the outside it doesn't even make any sense. Do you know what I mean? It don't make sense, because it's like, if you want that type of person that's loving, supportive, there for you, faithful, loyal, wants a future with you, it don't seem to make any sense why you would want to mess that up. And this is what we're going to talk about now. What is at the root of self-sabotaging behavior in a relationship? So the thing that you need to understand is, when we talk about that self-sabotaging behavior, it's coming from a deep subconscious level. If you're the person who's self-sabotaging, you probably don't even know why you're behaving in this way. You're probably angry with yourself. You probably feel guilty. You probably feel like you're losing your mind. And you're thinking to yourself, but why am I behaving in this way? Why am I doing this when this person is perfect for me? You probably have a lot of negative feelings towards yourself. And as I said, it's because the behavior patterns is coming from something deeper than what your conscious mind is able to realize. The likelihood is that you're self-sabotaging because you're trying to protect yourself. It's like you're putting up a guard. It's a type of behavior where you're trying to protect yourself from harm or hurt, but you're acting out in the wrong type of way. The fact of the matter is, most behaviors, most patterns that we have as adults, most of them have developed out of some type of childhood experience that we had that was negative in some type of way. If when you were a child, you didn't feel that you were loved, you felt like the family environment around you was one where love was not demonstrated, or the relationship between parents was one that was negative, you would have naturally tried to protect yourself against that. Now that you're an adult, it's the ego, that lower part of us, that's really trying to protect us from harm. That self-sabotaging behaviour is there to say, I do love that person, but I don't want to be hurt by that person. I don't want to be vulnerable to that person. I need to put in some type of protective mechanism so I'm safe. Your ego is trying to keep you safe. It's trying to help you survive. And in doing so, you're displaying these negative behaviours, which ironically is doing the exact opposite of keeping you safe. What is comforting to us as human beings is what's familiar. What is familiar to you always wins. So going back to previous experiences, if feeling unloved, if feeling unsafe, if feeling that you need to protect yourself is familiar to you, you're going to continue with those behaviour patterns during adulthood. And because that feeling of being unsafe is buried so deep subconsciously, there's almost like a conflict now between your conscious mind, which is on the one hand saying, I want to be vulnerable, I want to love, I want to be in this special relationship, I want to literally give myself fully to somebody. That's what you're saying consciously, yeah? That's why you start in the relationship in the first place. But on a subconscious level, deep in your subconscious mind, it's saying, but I don't feel safe when I love. I don't feel safe when I'm vulnerable. I don't feel safe in terms of giving my all to somebody. That feels unfamiliar, and therefore the behaviours kick in. You know, when it comes to dealing with self-sabotaging, the first thing that you've got to do is be aware of those internal programs that you've got. What are those deep-rooted beliefs? You can see that the real key to this is awareness. You may not always know why you're behaving in a particular way. Why am I pushing that person away when I know that they genuinely care for me and they genuinely do love me and I love them? It's not to say that you don't love the person. That's not what it's about. This is why I'm saying that often if you're the person that's self-sabotaging, you will feel a lot of negative emotion towards yourself because you know that you do love the person. Your conscious mind is telling you, but I do love them. But I do care for them. But I do want that stable family home and that stable family environment. I do want that. So why am I doing this? You can become so angry and frustrated with yourself. And then you just get into a cycle of a lot of negative thought patterns towards yourself. You got to become aware. Really genuinely aware of how you feel about yourself. How much self-love and belief do you really have within yourself? Have you ever asked yourself that question? How do I really feel about myself? On a basic level, just become aware and be very honest with yourself. You can jot it down if you need to. Just start jotting down some of the feelings that you have about yourself. What are some of the thoughts that you have about yourself? If you're a person that self-sabotages, the likelihood is when you jot that down, you're going to see that most of the feelings and thoughts that you have about yourself are not very nice. You're not going to be liking yourself very much. You're not going to be thinking that you're worthy of good, of love, of happiness. The fact of the matter is, when you're self-sabotaging, the likelihood is that you have some type of unhealed trauma there that needs to be healed. The trauma needs to be transmuted, needs to be faced head on. It needs to be embraced. Whatever negative feelings you have towards yourself, you need to work to overturn that. If you don't feel that you're worthy of love, you need to start giving yourself some love. If you don't feel that you're worthy of kindness, you need to start being kind to yourself. If you feel unsafe being vulnerable, you need to take little tiny steps at being vulnerable. And being vulnerable will start with yourself. By being honest about how you feel about yourself. And then you expand on that vulnerability. If you've got somebody close to you, someone who cares about you, whether that is your partner, a parent, a friend, somebody, just start with little snippets of being vulnerable. The aim of what you're trying to do here is feel safe. That's what you want. Subconsciously, you're looking for safety. What you missed out on, you're going to have to give that to yourself. Whatever you feel is lacking, you're going to have to give that to yourself. If you think love was missing, you're going to have to give yourself some love. If you think care was missing, you're going to have to give yourself that care. And the reason why you need to do it is because you need to fill that void internally, and you need to do it yourself. It's okay to have people helping you with that as an element of support. But that void that is there needs to be filled by you. No one else can do it for you, and that is the hard truth of it. And you know what? We can all sit here and we can all blame people who have wronged us in life. You can blame your parents, you can blame your partner. I know I've definitely blamed people in my life and felt like I had the right to do so too. But you know what? When I went on my journey of healing, it was one that I had to do alone. And the real healing came when I took the other people out of the equation. Yes, you do acknowledge the people who could have done more for you, should have treated you better, should have loved you more, should have been there for you, should have reciprocated the love, the kindness, the care that you tried to give them. But the fact of the matter is, they didn't. The more you hold on to that, and the more you finger point and the more you blame that person, the more you take away your power to change it, because you're so focused on them. It's almost like an excuse to not do anything now. So have your moment to blame them, to feel bad about it, to curse them. Not necessarily literally to their face, I'm just saying to yourself. But you're going to have to know that that's going to have to come to an end. There's going to come to a point where you've got to let that excuse go, and you've got to take accountability now. For you self-sabotaging your life, for you sabotaging that relationship, not giving yourself a chance at love, for you causing hurt and pain to the other person, you're going to have to take accountability for all of that and draw a line and now start to move forward, to recognize the areas of you that need to be healed. And what can be difficult when it comes to self-sabotaging in relationships, obviously I'm talking to you now from a point of view of you being the person who is self-sabotaging. But what about being on the receiving end of someone who is self-sabotaging your relationship and you're on the receiving end of that? It's not a nice situation. I have been on the receiving end of someone who, in a previous relationship, self-sabotaged that relationship to the point where there was nothing left of it. There was nothing left. And it was such a painful experience at the time. And, you know, after, met a long time after when we spoke and we had a conversation, and it was shared with me that, yep, I did self-sabotage that relationship. I now realise that there was healing that I had to do. And that's what he told me. I don't think I realised that at the time, because you're so caught up in your own emotions and you really want the other person to act in a particular way. You're not really looking at it from a point of view that they're experiencing their own pain, they've had their own trauma, they've had their own negative experiences that they're now working through. I'm not saying this to try and justify negative behaviour. I'm just saying to you that when you're on the receiving end of someone who is self-sabotaging, you can be there for them, you can support them, you can give them the advice that I've just given you in this video. But the one key thing that you have to understand, and this is really important, and I've learnt this from experience, is that that person, your partner, is on their own journey. And they may not be able to get over this in the way that you want them to. And they may not be able to love you in the way that you want them to. And, you know, sometimes during the course of them healing, you can stay with them and you can help them and you can support them and you can come out the other end together. But at the same time, you have to understand that there are going to be some occasions where you just can't move forward with them. You're going to have to step out of that equation and allow them to do their own healing Or even if they're at the point where they're not able to heal yet, but they want to continue self-sabotaging, you will need to leave that with them, and you'll need to show yourself enough love and enough self-care to say, I've done all I can, it's now time for me to step off this treadmill and go in another direction. It's not easy, but I think it's really important to understand that, nobody should be expected. I'm not expecting you to stay there and take a lot of negativity from people just because they're on their healing journey or they're in the midst of a trauma response. You don't have to do that if it's to your detriment, and if you're trying to be there for the person and they're just not ready to go on that journey yet. You can't force them. So I think it's important to understand that. But the main thing, that I want you to know from this video is, as I said, if you are the person who is self-sabotaging, there's work to be done, there's healing to be done. So start on that journey today and just be kind and show yourself that love and care. Okay, with that said, if you have enjoyed this video, press the like button, subscribe for future videos and share it with someone, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.